Welcome to the party. I'm Sam Ekstrom of Locked On Sports Minnesota, and now Aaron Rodgers will have two great running backs to hand the ball off to.
I'm Luke Braun of Locked On Vikings, and I'm super excited to see what team's running back Sam is talking about.
Hey, this is Arif Hasan with the Wide Left Substack. Today, I'm booing every national anthem except for the Irish.
Luke Inman at Luke_Spinman. Eric Wilson's back. Let's get Jack Tocho and Stacy Coley back and reunite the 2017 band. Come on, Kwesi.
Locked On Sports Minnesota podcasts. It's endless Minnesota Vikings talk with the diverse voices of your local experts. It's time for the Minnesota Football Party. It's your guys hanging out talking next level Vikings football. So join in with Arif Hasan, Locked On Vikings Luke Braun, Superior Sports Talk's Luke Inman, and Vikings insider Sam Ekstrom, plus the biggest names in Minnesota football for the Minnesota Football Party. And it starts now.
What's up? Welcome into the Minnesota Football Party on a Monday. New week underway here at Locked On Sports Minnesota, talking Vikings for the next hour. Plenty to get to. You met the crew. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. New customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making us your first watch or listen today. And for your second one, it's always got to be Locked On Vikings with Luke Braun, and find our audio dropping there wherever you get your podcasts. Aaron Rodgers watch continues through the weekend and now into a new week. We'll be all over that. Vikings swing two trades, one former starter gone, another running back coming in, plus some fringe roster signings to fill out the roster. Minnesota Vikings had a busy weekend. We'll get into all of it on today's show. Luke Braun, Arif Hasan, Luke Inman, and I'm Sam Ekstrom. Let's start with
We have a little bit of controversy about the placement of the Lukes here on the show graphic.
Yeah, we're having a bit of a moment in the chat. You decide if you want to do something about that, Sam.
Yeah, that's up to you, Sam. But I'm just letting you know that there's some objection.
Yeah, Charles, thank you. Is Charles the only one? Yeah,
well, I would like to hear more from the other members of the chat to see if they also object to Luke Braun's. It's literally just me, but I am furious.
I love
he counts extra. He counts double.
The amount of power that I wield here. Boom! Look at that.
There we go.
Look at that.
Whoa!
Nope. No.
Whoa!
No.
This is really great audio listening for the missing out podcast people. If you listen to a podcast in your car, go ahead and
it's
look
not
down
about
at your
the
phone all
quality.
night.
It's not about the quality of the audio experience. It's about advertising the video experience. That's all.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah,
that's what we're doing here. Yep.
Sam, what did you ask me?
I didn't even get my question out.
That's why I don't remember it.
All right, let's give the people what they want. A little Aaron Rodgers talk to start the show. Here's the situation.
Want. That's
if
a
you
word.
Were busy through the weekend. Hey, people got mad at my Aaron Rodgers title on the last show. I didn't give you the title today. I gave you the Jordan Mason title. We're all excited about it, but we're gonna talk Rodgers here.
Yeah, if anyone knows clickbait, it's Sam who put Jordan Mason in the title.
Yeah.
Everyone's searching him. I hear everyone.
Yeah.
It's topical. So here's where we stand with Aaron Rodgers. The Giants and the Steelers are still in play. Allegedly. Rodgers wants the Vikings. The Vikings are contemplating, quote unquote, Rodgers. He might retire. He might just hang it up if the Minnesota Vikings give him the Heisman and
that's so petty.
I don't know what would be more satisfying for Aaron Rodgers to complete the Favre arc, turn his back on Packers Nation, and resurrect his career with Minnesota, or Minnesota literally sending him into his ayahuasca-fueled retirement days.
Obviously,
it already is satisfying.
Close. Yeah, it's obviously the second. Packers fans want Rodgers to sign with the Vikings. You understand this, Sam, right? Like,
yeah, like they know he's bad now.
Yeah, like that's not good. There's no revenge arc here. Like, obviously, if it plays out the way it does, and they beat the Packers twice and go to the Super, like obviously that is the best, right? But like that's not going to happen. Let's be real. I mean, you might beat the Packers twice. Seems like that's not as hard as it once was. But you probably are not going to the Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers, right? So it's not going to complete the arc. So I think calling his bluff and sending him into retirement is like obviously the most satisfying thing that could happen.
Yeah, it's so beautiful that after like a decade of dreading the games against Rodgers,
Charles, where have you been in the chat our whole life?
This is great.
Like, coming in strong. I love it.
But like Rodgers being on the Vikings doorstep with a boombox and the Vikings like not really wanting to open the window is such a beautiful way for this to end after so long of like dreading him and having to respect him as an adversary as much as you hated him. And it's like, oh, I don't have to respect you anymore. This is actually kind of really desperate and pathetic. Ha!
Yeah, it's like the "Who Want Me" meme with like the no at 100%.
And 100% no. Yeah. Well, the Giants and Steelers do want him. Like they've been very clear about that, and it's that either Rodgers really doesn't want to play for those guys, or it's all just a bunch of stuff to up his price for the Steelers, which is kind of still what I think all this is.
You know how sometimes dudes will complain that there aren't any women that will get together with them, but really what's happening is that they're going to only shoot for their perception of what they think a perfect 10 is, and those are the people rejecting them. And it's like, man, if you would just set like reasonable sights for yourself,
just lower the bar to like something
you'd be
realistic,
fine.
Please. Yeah.
I don't even like calling it lowering the bar. But like kind of, yeah, right?
Yeah,
it's like figuring out kind of what suits your needs and
recalibrate your bar.
There's a self-awareness,
realistic expectation.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's kind of where, and he's just gonna quit and become a football incel, which is like a nice addition to the incel kind of vibe he already has.
What does he do when he does retire? Does he end up in a broadcast booth? Is he? I mean, that's too easy almost, right? Like he's gonna
podcast adjacent to like Joe Rogan.
Okay. He was bitter about the fact that he didn't get picked for like Jeopardy, man. Like, there's no way he's going to be in any.
I've never seen more of a podcaster in my life. That man is a podcaster.
He's going to, and like we've seen
takes one to know one.
I say this with all of the insult intended. He feels like a podcaster.
Yeah.
But with the least
I think
possible amount of self-esteem, I say.
This is what we do now, though, with these newly retired coaches and players. We overexpose them in media because they all want to capitalize on that sort of afterglow, which you can't really call it that with Rodgers. I don't know. It's more of a stench. But of their career, you put him on a million platforms. He's probably going to be like permanently ingrained with McAfee. But, okay, we've said all this. I want you guys to talk yourselves into it. I want you to spin it. How could this go well? What would the contract look like that would be acceptable? How could you see it actually turning out in the Vikings' favor? Wouldn't it be worth it, Luke Inman, to sign up for a repeat of 2009, Favre going to Lambeau with the booze cascading down, hanging 38 points in Green Bay? That was kind of fun 16 years ago. Could be fun again.
Do you want a perfect repeat of 2009? Because that sucked.
Yeah. Do we have to go? Yeah. Do we have to go copy?
I don't remember how that season finished. We're not going to talk about that. But Inman, I want the rosy point of view here. Put on your glasses. Put on your rose-colored glasses.
So he's asking for what? It came out. He's asking for what? 3 years, $100 million. If he truly wanted to ride out in the sunset, win a Super Bowl, then he knows the Vikings of these three teams. Hands down, the Vikings is the team to go with. Coming off 14 wins, just got significantly better in the trenches on both sides. You get to go from the Jets, who had super inconsistent pass protection, to say the least, to two bookend stud tackles, a revamped interior offensive line to block for you. You get to reunite with Aaron Jones in this good running game now. The Jets defense last year was supposed to be like a top 5 unit. They couldn't stop a nosebleed last year. And now you get to go to a Brian Flores top 5, at worst top 10 defense on the other side of things too. Plus, don't the Jets still owe him like $60 million, right? So I just got to think he should take significantly less money to come play for a team like the Vikes, knowing they're a Super Bowl contender if they are truly one piece away like he thinks they are. Something like the Favre deal. What was the Favre deal back in 2009? 2 years, $25 million, something like that?
Just one. I think it was just one because he had to
It was?
re-sign a new deal the
They had
next
to
year,
fly
too.
back down to Mississippi. And we're like, hey, we got to do this again.
I thought it was a 2-year, $25 million. Okay, you guys are
No,
probably
it
right.
was.
So-
You're right, Luke. It was a 2-year deal. It's just that he was planning to retire after the
Sure.
first year of it,
Right,
and they
which
had to
would've
It
go
was like
avoided
12
yeah.
mil the first, 13
And they
the
negotiated
second,
a
something
new
like
one.
that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good memories.
Yeah, or something like that.
So
yeah.
a 2-year, 40 mil for inflation, something like that. That could maybe keep both sides happy, but I don't know,
I don't think
Sam.
that's gonna
It's
happen.
tough from the games that I've watched of Aaron Rodgers. And again, things were crumbling around him last year. That's the only kind of rosy picture I can paint as far as like maybe
We're all
why it's
trying to
not
find the
all
guy who did
Aaron
this.
Rodgers' fault. You know, Robert Saleh's head coach got fired midway through the year. Their kicker lost them literally 3 to 4 games, if I remember right. I mean, just their kicker alone. He would drive them all the way down, 2-minute drill, kick a
I can't imagine that
field goal.
happening in
Yeah, I've
Minnesota,
never heard
right?
that. No. Come to Minnesota though. Yeah, that'll be better.
Yeah.
So
Okay, no,
it's tough.
Yeah,
I do
so, okay,
think contract wise, if it's like a 2-year deal, I think he's 41. That's
He's
insane to
41.
me. It would have to be like a 1-year deal. It probably. So here's the thing about what Luke said about like, yeah, he's making a lot of money from the Jets still. I think there's still a lot of like full guarantees that it's not just like signing bonus cap stuff. But have we witnessed the ego on this man? I don't think he's going to be like humbly taking the vet min.
Yeah.
No.
So I think you still have to pay him like something. Let's say you could get him for like 2025, 1-year deal, and then you like void year the hell out of that so that you can still facilitate all of the contracts that you've already committed to.
I'm really not that concerned about him ruining the Vikings' financial future. They've signed everybody they want for the next 2 years. Like the roster is good. I don't.
Yeah,
think
they just have to
he's
be in a spot where they don't have to cut those guys, which
I
they're all
think-
cuttable. And the goal now is to like not have to.
right. The 2026 cap is actually that outlook doesn't look great until you start restructuring a bunch of guys again.
Right,
They put
which
a
will
bunch
happen.
And
yeah,
they
which
haven't
will
even
happen.
pulled those. They
but,
haven't
like,
pulled those strings yet for this season, where they can save another.
No, I know,
money
Sam.
like
What I'm
that.
getting at is if you get a 2-year deal with him and void everything into 2026, now you've complicated a bunch of things, right? It becomes a little bit more difficult. And I know we're talking about, a year from now, maybe 2 years from now, the 2027, whatever. But like, I don't want to be in a spot where because you took this, I'm not going to say it's a moonshot, but you took this long shot. That you're now screwing yourselves out of what should be a really nice rookie window where you've surrounded this guy with a bunch of vets that you paid a lot for. So that's kind of the concern, is that like next year, the year after, what that cap situation looks like if you start voiding things out in order to get this guy onto the team. Now, I do think that like a $25 million deal is actually pretty reasonable and would probably actually work with the Vikings. I don't think he'll ever take 25. In fact, I'd be good all the way up to 30 something, right? 31.
Vikings
but-
have $30 million left on the cap, and that's again before restructuring.
Not
other
relevant.
people.
Yeah. It's just not
They would void the hell out of this. He'd
They're-
be like a
they're
$4 million cap
They
hit.
can afford
Yeah.
this. Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, if they get it to like a 30 million or whatever and push things around and that's probably fine, and it's probably a pretty decent deal, and you're probably in a spot where it's not so much money that if you start sucking half into the season that you can't like bench him from like a contract perspective, or like, because I know that you can always bench anybody at any time. We've seen that in the NFL, but it is a little bit harder when the guy's making 40 than it is when the guy's making 30 or 25 even. And I just kind of want to be in a spot where you don't feel pressured, and obviously ownership doesn't really pressure in the same way, but you don't feel pressured to start a guy, and that's probably a good amount of money where you're there. But I think from a locker room culture perspective, this is like toxic, and I just think you don't want to do that. I don't want like more people on the team thinking about like flat Earth and the moon.
I gotta think honestly. I know we joke
Except
about
the
that
DB
stuff a
room,
lot.
they're allowed.
I
Well, no, the
honestly
DB
gotta
room,
think.
they already do. You're
Yeah,
not
well,
changing anything,
which is
there.
good.
Yeah.
I gotta think that if somebody or multiple people in the Vikings facility are like really truly contemplating this deal, I gotta think that's the big hang up. That's gotta be one of. It's not, to your point, Sam. It's not the money. It's not probably KOC thinking, how do I make this offense work? How does it look different? It's probably the off the field or just the locker room vibe kind of stuff, I would think, is got to be one of the top 2 or 3 talking points and kind of what people are kind of button heads about. I would imagine. Nobody will ever know.
One thing
We're not in there.
that-
But that is something that I don't think we can gloss over. It's
Yeah,
just the
one thing that
circus
came out
comes
this
with Aaron
weekend on
Rodgers.
that from The Athletic, from Alec Lewis, Diana Rossini, and a third person, I forget who else, did like a big triple byline on the
Mike
thing.
Silver, maybe.
And Mike Silver was the other
been
guy,
on it,
yeah.
Who is an Aaron Rodgers insider, in fairness to Mike Silver.
Yeah. And Alec Lewis provides the Vikings perspective. So I think this is his reporting, but it's all under the triple byline. That the Wilfs and Kwesi have all 100% deferred this to Kevin O'Connell. They have looked at him and said, you made Josh Dobbs awesome, you made Sam Darnold awesome, whatever you say, dude, and have essentially allowed Kevin O'Connell carte blanche to make whatever decision he wants here.
I think that it's a little ironic that when Favre was here, we cheered and applauded as he openly and brazenly rejected all of Brad Childress's ideas and coaching. And
and that was correct. He was right to do that.
He was right.
And we were like, yes, Brad, way to go. We love
one of the few times he's been vindicated by history.
Wouldn't fly this time around. I think that this fan base has too much love for KOC. I think this fan base is not quite ready to attach themselves to Rodgers. They were with Favre. On-field perspective, though. I probably need to dig more into the tape from last year to see if Rodgers still has any mobility left. Did play all 17 games.
On that mobility front,
yep.
I want to say that it changed after the Vikings game because the Vikings did injure his ankle in a way that did not appear on an injury report. And so you probably want to do a before and after that Vikings game if you wanted to take a look at his mobility because it was really difficult for him to move for like weeks after. So that's an important piece of context, but I think that he probably doesn't have the same mobility he once did.
That is such a underrated part of his game when he was at his peak too. Obviously, great pocket passer, but like again, I think we just talked about this actually on Thursday with Ron Johnson. But during his peak MVP era, it's like okay, nobody's open. Defense calls the perfect play. Aaron Rodgers was one of those guys who can run for 11 yards and move the chains and get the first down. If he doesn't have that anymore, and again to Arif's point, I'm only remembering the Vikings game and on. I don't remember if he had that mobility prior. It sounds like he did. So maybe if he's 100%, maybe he's still got a little bit. But 41 years old, I don't know what Aaron Rodgers looks like without that. Again, it's not the bread and butter of his game, but it certainly was a big element to his game back in his prime that I just don't think is nearly as close as it was even 4 or 5 years ago. So.
Sam, to the prompt that you started this with, which is like, what's the good scenario? It's so hard to concoct something knowing what we know about Aaron Rodgers now, that his mobility isn't the same, that his arm isn't the same, that he has this like hand signal thing that like makes it difficult to get to build chemistry with new receivers.
Yeah, like new receivers are a kryptonite
like
for him.
Garrett Wilson
very
hates that
stupid.
guy.
Yeah.
and he would make us give up a first-round pick to get Robert Tunyon.
You imagine benching Jordan Addison for friggin'
for Alan Lazard?
Alan Lazard, Randall
Cobb. I don't know.
Like, all that stuff is so hard to get past. So, like, I don't know if all that stuff suddenly disappears because of the magic because the Vikings have such a good locker room. Like, it would feel like such insane homer nonsense to
but you
look at this and say, like, yeah, that'll work.
Headaches disappear the second you start winning. Like Kyrie Irving showed this in Dallas.
But Luke's point is that it's kind of difficult to get to the winning part if he is not on the same page with receivers.
I don't know if that's that actually.
It just isn't. Oh, that's great, Sam.
It just isn't. To say that Aaron Rodgers could win with unbelievable weapons, unbelievable roster, unbelievable.
He had an unbelievable weapon in New York in Garrett Wilson. That guy is good at football, and he couldn't find a way to use him.
Okay, but what else?
Here's the quote. The quote for you, Sam, is it was all just Jets toxicity's fault. It was actually all just New York's fault. All that will stay in New York because the New York Jets are like that. And then that would be the narrative we have to do, which isn't the hardest sell. I mean, we just did that with Sam Darnold.
Favre struggled in New York,
but
right?
Boy, are you ignoring a lot of stuff.
Actually, Favre's first 8 games in New York were
he was
outstanding.
good. And then he got hurt. He hurt his
he got
finger.
Hurt, yeah.
He got hurt, and then also
he tore his bicep.
Yeah, so that's a little different.
Braun, you had an off-air theory as to why the Vikings are waiting to sign the backup QB. Would you like to share that? Because we still,
they're
the biggest hang-up, right? They don't have one.
That's probably the biggest thing. That's probably the biggest contract they yet need to hand out. And I'm gonna guess that they're waiting for Cam Robinson to sign somewhere. So they could get, if they sign a backup quarterback right now for like $5 million and he counts for a 7th round compensatory pick, that would cancel that would be the last thing they need to cancel the Sam Darnold pick that they're hoping for. And that would suck. And then if Cam Robinson doesn't sign before that date in the calendar, June 1st, then they wouldn't get that compensatory pick. So they want to know that Cam Robinson is signing somewhere and like will count. So they're waiting for that, and then they'll pick up whatever backup there is. Yeah. And I think what's really crucial to that is if you look at the amount of backup quarterbacks and the amount of teams that still need them, I think that there is not scarcity. If you're okay with like Ryan Tannehill or Teddy Bridgewater or like whoever, then you don't have to have a sense of urgency. There will be someone left over once, even if you're the last team to sign a backup quarterback. I think the math works out that way, so they don't have to be in a hurry. They can just wait and like be ultra extra sure that Cam Robinson is gonna sign somewhere, and then if he doesn't, then you can turn to like a late draft pick or something like that. You can try to get it somehow, some other way. Yeah, Teddy.
Former Pro Bowler
Teddy,
Tyler
come home.
Huntley.
I'm with you on that. Let's pivot the conversation to Jordan Mason next. Very excited about this 1-2 punch the Vikings have created at running back. Basically traded Ed Ingram for Jordan Mason. We'll tell you how that worked out on the other side. This break, Minnesota Football Party. We're presented today by Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where'd my money go? Well, you dined out, you online shopped, you went to too many movies. It's easy to lose track. You're subscribed to all these streaming services. Well, Monarch Money helps. They're like your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. I use it. I love it. It's my favorite budgeting app. You see all of your expenses in a nice linear fashion. You get to categorize them. Then you see where the money's going. You start building wealth. It's not just managing money. They've got great insights and tools. I love Monarch Money. So take control of your finances. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL, half off your first year. Also brought to you by FanDuel. March Madness is here. Brackets dropped yesterday. FanDuel giving you the chance to get in the action like never before. New customers get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. $200 to use on everything from buzzer beaters, picking the upsets, picking the champion. You can now get the full futures list. Pick your champion at FanDuel. I'm betting all the underdogs. That's how I roll. Also, for that $5 bet, check out the T-Wolves money line. Try to get those $200 in your account. T-Wolves have won 8 in a row, and I think the Pacers are banged up tonight. They can make it 9 in a row against Indiana. FanDuel.com. Get in the college hoops action all tournament long. FanDuel. Make every moment more. All right, Aaron Rodgers signing, very ambiguous, very intangible right now. What's real is that Jordan Mason is a Minnesota Viking. Here's how the weekend went down. Ed Ingram traded for a 2026 sixth, which I believe one of the sixths in 2026 went back to San Francisco in another deal. Jordan Mason comes to Minnesota, and the Vikings also pick swap with the 49ers. They swapped 5th and 6th this year. Very low price for a very good player who looked awesome against the Vikings last year. Arif Hasan, first take on Jordan Mason and this new backfield tandem.
I mean, I like it. I think that given that this is kind of like a low-ish investment, it doesn't lock the Vikings out of, grabbing a running back in the draft, but it also doesn't force them into they already weren't forced into it, but it feels kind of nice that you've got some clarity on it. Jordan Mason provides some kind of complement to Aaron Jones. Sam's gone. That's nice. Some kind of complement to Aaron Jones, and that you can kind of run in between the tackles a little bit more readily. Maybe it'll help with the red zone running. I don't know. But he is kind of a powerful runner, and that'll allow you to reduce the workload on Aaron Jones, because I think it was pretty clear that Jones is not exactly 250 carry guy or whatever a bell cow.
He's not the bell cow.
Yeah. And he works really well.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Gets a stinger in the second.
Yeah, no, exactly. And it kind of reduces his effectiveness like it does for a lot of backs. And so he works really well on a committee. I think having Jordan Mason allows you to genuinely run that committee as opposed to like relying on Ty Chandler or hoping that Cam Akers has another admittedly very good season, but like you don't have to play that game with Cam Akers anymore.
Yeah.
unless
Now you can let
somebody
him
gets
sign
hurt.
somewhere else and trade for him again, and
Yeah.
continue the
And,
tradition.
Yeah, and I mean, he's been pretty good running between the tackles. He's like top 10 in like elusiveness rating. He's top 10 in yards after contact per attempt. Not like a Derrick Henry or anything like that, but I think that he does a good job of giving you a kind of a different but still effective running style, so long as the blocking is there for him. So I like it.
Yeah.
I like how he
most about
was
Mason,
decisive.
let me give this to you, Braun, to tee you up. Mason last year, 3rd in rush yards over expected per attempt, while facing the 2nd highest 8-man box percentage in San Francisco. So
And that was behind only Barkley and Henry, I believe. Or maybe that's a different stat I was looking at. But
no, I mean that could be right. I'll have to double check, but no, he was in the elites in that regard. Tough stat to quantify sometimes, but I like the sound of it.
Yeah, some of that production has to be chalked up to like San Francisco being better at designing run game. Like Kyle Shanahan's just better at that than Kevin O'Connell is. But what I like about Jordan Mason is very decisive and bursty, so he will get through that hole, and that will set you up with angles that make it easier to that make it harder to tackle you, and therefore easier to generate missed tackles. If you can like make the decision quickly and also have the acceleration to get through, you just be in the second level a lot, and good things will start to happen. I thought he did a really, really nice job of that, and I think the only reason he's not like, he wasn't a more expensive asset is just because you haven't seen him do it like a ton. He's been a backup for a long time. He filled in, he got hot. Obviously, you got to worry if that's a flash in the pan or whatever. But I like what I saw from him, and I think that I like him for a lot of the same reasons that I like Aaron Jones. I think they're similar running backs, which is not a bad thing at all. It's a good duo, and I still think Aaron Jones is better back there. But yeah, if he gets dinged up, or if you just want to spell him a little more to try to prevent him from getting dinged up, you've got all those options in the world. And I think crucially, with the Vikings only having 2 picks in the top 100, you just absolutely don't even need to think about running back there anymore.
Yeah, the Niners too, you get them for a little bit cheaper too, because the Niners just every year they draft one and bring in somebody from UDFA. Isaac Orendo was the guy last year. Obviously, they're paying Christian McCaffrey a lot of money. You look at the moves. You look at the moves they've made, clearing a lot of cap space. Debo's gone. Who else am I forgetting? There's a couple other big names that are gone, but clearly they're going to try to run that offense through Christian McCaffrey. So, yeah, pretty cheap deal. This feels like one of the best duos the Vikings have had in that backfield in a while. Maybe one of the better, we'll see how it shakes out, but one of the better 1-2 punches, at least in the top half of the league in 2025.
Matt Asiata, Jerick McKinnon.
I was going to say AP Jerick McKinnon, but yes. Oh. Let's go there. No, let's go there. You're right. Matt Asiata. 3 touchdowns in week 16 won a lot of people their fantasy football championship, if you remember that.
Yeah. You need a yard. You need 3 yards to get you 1 yard.
Yeah.
When Jordan Mason got volume last year, he was unbelievable. He had a high ankle sprain week 13, missed the rest of the year.
Oh God,
but
that snow game was so sick.
Yeah. Against Buffalo, yes. Yep, did well in that game as well. If Vikings averaged 27 carries per game last year, how would you split them up between the two? And that probably is a little high because they just led in so many games. So
don't worry about it. They'll keep leading. It's
27 carries a game. How are you divvying? Are you 50-50 split, 14-13?
No. I'm probably, 6-33. Yeah, something like that. Or 34 if you want
for Aaron Jones,
as long as they're both healthy, I like that 2-to-1 ratio. And who knows too? I mean, again, like you guys kind of pointed out, similar style, a little bit of running backs in the backfield and what they can do. Aaron Jones maybe a little bit more in the passing game for sure, so he's on the field a little bit more on third down. Again, not a workhorse, not a guy who you're going to drop 20, 25 touches a game for, but I think it also probably depends a little bit on the week-to-week game plan, who your opponent is, how you want to attack them, what you want to drop as a blueprint a little bit, because they, as much as their styles are pretty similar, they do give you a little bit different attributes, I guess, and skill sets. So 2-to-1 though feels right, at least going into the training camp, OTAs, preseason, all that stuff.
Someone commented earlier, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a moment in the season where we want to make Mason the primary back. I mean, I think he could look that good if you give him 8 per game to start.
It takes like 120-yard rush for people to start saying that. Yeah.
And
I think it'll just happen
that.
by default. Once again, Aaron Jones gets a stinger and gets dinged up and misses three-quarters of the game. That's just inevitable. That's just going to happen.
Right. It's also kind of funny because like Mason.
I think I heard someone said about Ty Chandler last year. That's not a high bar.
So in terms of like breakaway yardage percentage, so the percentage of your yards that come on 15+ yard runs, it's Barkley, Henry, Gibbs, and Jordan Mason.
Wow.
I think it's encouraging that he actually was really good in volume last year. He wasn't good in bursts. He wasn't the change of pace who went 6 for 50. He was going for 20 for 100, 28 for 147, 24 for 123. So he does
have
well
a
with
couple
volume.
of fumbles. So yeah, so
Little bit
Cameron
of
Rolfe
fumbling.
said, Cameron Rolfe said Aaron Jones fumbles one time and the buzz begins, and it's like, look, we don't have enough of a sample size with Jordan Mason to say that he has a fumbling problem, but statistically his fumbling problem is very similar to Aaron Jones'.
Oh, yeah, we're definitely getting to that annoying conversation where Aaron Jones fumbles and we have to be like, well, if you want to prevent fumbles, benching him's not the move.
What was
the Vikings just can't hold on to the ball with their running backs. It goes all the way to Adrian, right? Like the last last solid carry running back was like Chester Taylor, right?
The number of fumbles, last 3 fumbles for Jordan Mason last year, and I think Jones had 3 or 4 as well. Like fumbles are, again, fumble regression, I think regression back to the mean, probably a real thing. Probably, I'm not calling it a problem for either one.
Yeah.
At this point.
Fumbles themselves are more sustainable than fumble recoveries. I do think that there's something in the way that they've like trained ball security among their ball carriers that might be broken.
Yeah, asking if Mason is the goal line guy, I would say yes. I would say he.
Despite this like breakaway yardage stat where he seems to just pile up all these 20+ yard runs, I would argue that he's probably better in the red zone. He only has like 3 touchdowns last year, right? But I think he's probably better in the red zone just based off of me watching the way that he plays than Aaron Jones is, which I don't know if that's saying a lot, but it is, I think, a little bit of a reasonable upgrade. I think the best thing you could do in the red zone is design better red zone runs more than anything else. Like it's less.
Don't just like spam your like zone, and also don't go the other way and get like so cute that you have like 16 motions and somebody screws up a run ID and you take a 4-yard loss.
It's just your most basic play or the cutest play that you've ever designed.
Yeah,
where like 8 things could go wrong.
That's the thing too that's been missing. That's the thing. I feel like almost since AP, right? Like hopefully this can get them over the hump, or they can figure it out finally. That something can switch to where it's late in the game or late in the year and it's 3rd and short, and everybody in the stadium knows you're running the ball. And you know, this is what happens. The best teams in the league just find a way to convert first downs and keep moving the chains. They've been missing that, I feel like. The red zone stuff, the short goal line stuff, and then just being able
to throw a lot on
They do, because they can't run, I feel like. Because,
I think you're right.
Go back to that Denver Sunday night football game or something. It was like, what did they do? Ty Chandler trick play, or maybe it was... Are
we talking about the Josh Dobbs game? The one where
Yes.
the shine finally fell off of him. Yeah. The closer he was physically to space, the worse he was. Yeah,
easily the dumbest loss of the KOC era.
That was so bad, dude.
That was awful.
That was
That was such a bad.
It started off with like
it's been a
the
while.
Worst read option you've ever seen in your life.
Man.
Yeah, Ty Chandler probably RB3 and maybe even in roster peril, to be honest with you. If they draft a running back in like the 6th round.
Sure, they'll bring in whether it's UDFA.
He's got to win the kick returner job, I think. Well,
day 3.
He's also a really good punt protector and good on kickoff coverage too. So I think there's a special teams angle that makes him a little more secure, but like you got to re-win all of those jobs every year.
Yeah, also I think what really needs to happen is that his powers are activated when you trade for him. And so he's like, you know how Graveler evolves into Golem when you make a trade. That reference definitely landed for Sam, for sure.
Yeah,
100%.
Is that
ask your kids?
Lord of the Rings?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
What was the first one though?
A Hunter to Gengar? I don't know what you mean.
No, what turns into Gollum?
No,
Graveler.
Golem. It's different. Yeah, it's Graveler.
Keep
Yeah.
up, dude. Come on.
Come on.
Right.
This
Ask
is
the
basic
kids later.
stuff.
They'll explain it to you.
Ed Ingram.
This is basic stuff, Sam.
2 trades.
This
There
is
were 2
this is
trades.
day one training camp stuff. Sam.
Trainer camp.
Basic scheme. No, you're throwing too many wrinkles at me.
I just
give me the
last thing.
basics.
Did we mention Mason's only 25 years old? I love that. I mean,
Yeah.
you got some
3
youth
years.
in the building now.
3 years of
Yeah.
control on him.
Love this.
They've got him on his tender, and then the next 2 years.
Love that.
Beautiful.
Are you
Love
sure?
it.
Are
Awesome.
you sure they? So wait, this is the Theo Jackson deal. They have him tender and
I
2 more.
I am not sure, but I think so.
All right, I'm gonna over the cap this just for clarity's sake. I thought it was just.
I don't think it says yet.
Yeah,
They
I don't
don't
think
have
Over the
it.
Cap will have it until the next NFLPA report. No one is like digging into this contract.
Yeah, you're correct.
My
No,
source is that I said it the other way on my show this morning, and a bunch of people yelled at me. So I surely I
That's
was
why
wrong.
that's your source. Okay.
Yeah,
I mean, fair enough. I've been there.
yeah.
Let's talk about again, and we're gonna get to Okudah. People in the chat want to hear about Okudah. They want to talk about the visits.
Rondale
Moore
Moore
as well. Okudah. We got other signings to get to. Plus, but before we do, I do want to ask, what was your favorite Ed Ingram moment? Like, which time of him stepping on?
The 3 times he stepped. Yeah.
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 No, having a question asker for mailbags for, I think both me and Arif for like 3 years, that was Ed Ingram's left foot. That was my
Yeah,
favorite.
and it did change to Ed Ingram's left arm because at one point he swatted a ball
He's
too.
caused a fumble. I do think one of the best pieces of content I made last year was comparing Ed Ingram to Dalton Reisner, both the show and then the article that I wrote about it. I was pretty proud of that, so I'm happy about how I covered Ed
Yeah, and
Ingram
they're
over the
both
years.
not on the team anymore, so.
Yeah.
Garrett
Largely due to
Bradbury.
the problems that I pointed out in those pieces.
Ed Ingram proof that if you are on a rookie deal and you are a relatively high draft pick, that you will get, there is something there to be traded for. And
Sure.
somebody's
Somebody's still got a draft grade on you, yeah.
You can be dealt.
Yeah.
That's-
Yeah, somebody's like, I thought that guy had potential. They must just suck at coaching him. But we can fix him. Like
Yeah, they
constantly.
used him wrong. We were going to
Which,
use him differently
in
in our
fairness,
scheme.
like
Yeah.
when it comes to Vikings offensive linemen, I can see why you come to that conclusion. The Vikings do have 2 very good offensive linemen, but like you may not have updated your priors for that. So
Yeah,
I
I
get
feel
it.
like the linemen that go elsewhere, like you don't like Pat Elflein didn't like soar when he
He
left.
got better with the Jets. He got better. He wasn't good. Otherwise, he'd be on a team right
yeah, like it's
Who got better?
Who has been reclaimed? I wouldn't count Elflein.
Like actually good? I
who
don't
has
know.
been reclaimed from
like
the
yeah.
Vikings?
Did
to
anybody
another
like
team?
leave
Remember
and then become
Nick
good?
Easton?
Was not
Nick
good.
Easton like
Thanks.
was kind of nice
He was
with it
alright.
for a second.
Was he?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, once he
He like
left.
started for the Saints after.
And he
Well, they gave
wasn't
him a huge
terrible.
deal.
the Saints.
They gave him a
right,
like a
and he wasn't
huge
terrible
deal.
with them. He stuck around for a couple years.
Yeah, are we talking
He's
early
probably the
round,
best
early
example.
picks,
No,
or
we're
just
talking
any?
about guys that like departed the Vikings and oh no, we shouldn't have let him go, and it actually
Donald
was
Penn.
like, oh, there we go. Yep, Jeff Schwartz.
Remmers the
Jeff
first
Schwartz.
time. Wasn't
Yeah.
Remmers in the building for a cup of coffee and then had a pretty good start and then came back and then had a
Chaz
good
And then
start.
Surratt
blew it in a
had
Super
that
Bowl
pick
again, I think,
six.
right?
Chaz
Yeah,
Surratt had that
that's-
pick six in preseason.
That's a tough
so-
story. His agent is
yeah.
still mad about the way every single team treated him. And normally you'd just be like, hey, man, I think that's more on the kid than the teams. But actually, I think his agent has a point.
How
I
about
think Mike
passing
Remmers
game?
should
How
have
about
only
Kari
ever been
Glassing
a right
game?
tackle. He's not an offensive
Oh, there
lineman.
you go.
He's not an offensive lineman. You
Yeah.
can't count that.
Yeah, we're counting it.
That is a good example. Let's talk about the reclamation project at corner that the Vikings might be embarking on next on Minnesota Football Party.
The NCAA tournament is here, and so is the bracket breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.
All right, Jeff Okudah is in the building, folks. He's started his free agent visit with the Minnesota Vikings, the former number 3 overall pick. I'm kind of in on Okudah. I wouldn't give him the spot. I wouldn't give him a starting job. Wouldn't give him a big contract. He's dealt with a core muscle tear, an Achilles tear, a hip injury, a concussion. He's
also never been good
at this.
He's
point.
never been good.
always
This is
be-
the reclamation. This is what entices you, though,
Yeah.
and enthralls you. The reclamation project,
I'm-
right? Top
yeah,
3
I'm not
pick.
out of
Falling
it.
into
Sam
the
is-
exact
Sam-
trap we just made fun of.
Yeah.
Sam has found his Andrew Booth. Let's go.
I'm not.
There
out
must
on his-
always be a washed corner in Minnesota, though. So this is a need that
No,
needed
that's
to be
good.
filled.
Actually, yeah.
Doesn't
yeah,
every team though try having a washed corner in camp every year? I think this is par for the
Do
course.
they? Is that normal? Did the Chiefs have that the last couple of years?
I don't know. Wasn't Mike Hughes in the building for?
Mike Hughes was in that building.
Yeah, he was.
Hey, speaking of corners, though,
Yeah.
real quick, did you guys see the Stingley deal?
3 years. 90?
Yeah, I
did
finally
pay
figured out
attention
why
to it.
the numbers were so weird on that, right? So it was announced
yeah,
as
you
an
were asking- yeah.
$90 million deal
With
with
89
$89 million guaranteed, and I was like, "That what in the world are you talking about?" But the $90 million is just the 3 years tacked on to the existing rookie contract. The 89 guaranteed is probably we don't know for sure is probably also including the 2 years left on his rookie deal that were already guaranteed. So it's 66 million probably in new guaranteed money with a $90 million deal. It's very silly the way it was reported. Anyway, $30 million a year. Congrats, dude.
Makes that Byron Murphy deal look pretty nice.
Which is now like 18 after we got the real term.
Yeah, it's 18. Yeah.
Yeah.
So cool.
On Okuda, I'm not out on him yet. Like I think that if you look
What
at
do you
his
mean by out
2022
on him? Like
Yeah.
like you
Like,
acknowledge
we
he's
saw what happened with
probably not
Stephon
good.
Gilmore. We saw what happened with Stephon Gilmore, and I think I'm just going to refuse to learn a lesson from that and say, hey, maybe guys who we have a lot of really bad priors on will probably continue to be bad.
Refuse to learn a lesson. Okay, Sam, when you say you're not out on a guy, you still think probably he's not good, right?
I am super open to seeing what Okuda has in the tank.
It's
'cause
a
I
low
think
risk.
That's fine.
It's a low
That's
risk.
fine.
Is that what you're
Yeah.
saying?
That's fine.
Low
It's a-
risk.
That's fine, Sam.
For
I don't
cheap,
know
yeah.
that anyone is upset that the Vikings are considering adding Jeff Okuda to the team. I think people would be upset if the plan was to start him, right? Like you get like why I wanted to clarify what you meant by that because I think it's fine to like bring a guy in. He's been injured his whole career. He demonstrated a fair amount of talent in the draft. I don't think he's going to be good. I think there's a reasonable chance that he even gets cut. If he signs with the Vikings, he gets cut by training camp just because he hasn't been that good. But I don't mind adding him to the 90 man. And even if he ends up on the 53 man, I don't mind if he's a fourth or fifth. Well,
Yeah,
I might mind if
he
he's a fourth
competes
corner, but, like,
with Isaiah Rodgers and Mekhi
Right.
Blackman, and you start three of those guys, or you rotate, or you do whatever.
Right,
I
but
will
my
say in Flores'
question is-
defense, he doesn't have to be as good as he would have had to
I
be.
mean, that's
in,
true.
like,
Yeah,
Atlanta.
it's just a little bit less important for corners to be as good in that defense. My question is, Sam, though, like when you say you're not out on him, do you think he is probably going to be a net value add if he starts?
I don't know if he's going to start, but if you're
If the
if you're
Vikings were
stacking-
like, we have found our other starter. It's Jeff Okuda. We have signed him for 2 years, $20 million.
this is the Vikings cornerback room right now. They have Byron Murphy.
I know. Sam, I know what it is. Can you tell me your answer to that announcement? If the Vikings say
Okuda-
that. If the Vikings sign him and they're like, we're going to start this guy.
I am comfortable if the room doesn't change. If they're battling between Tavier Thomas and Mekhi Blackman, and
Dwight
Okuda wins
McLaughlin.
that battle and starts and is healthy, I would be cool with that. I would be cool with that opportunity. I don't think that's how it's going to land. I think the way it will play out is probably there's probably one more body that comes in.
They should draft a guy, I think. Yeah.
And that draft
Like if
pick
he
comes
makes
here
like
to start
enough
week 20.
guaranteed money to imply that he's going to be like a day one all game every down starter,
Right.
and you're good with that.
Well, they would never pay him that.
Okay.
But let's say they
Okay,
did.
That's all. Yeah.
Not necessarily like for the value of it, but just for the implication.
It's all
The implication.
yeah, I mean I think that would be a rash swing by
Okay.
Quasi.
Okay.
I like the value
okay.
in this. I like
Yeah,
the
I just- I-
reclamation
You like the
idea.
low risk.
You like that it's because it's cheap. Okay, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So like that's why I was just like I don't know like what it means to be in on this guy because I think he's bad, But I'm comfortable with the amount of space it would take to be wrong on that.
It's crazy to think Mike Hughes is at a better career than Jeff Okudah. Looking back.
Oh, that's a crazy. Yeah, that's correct. Oh my god.
Wow.
Holy crap.
He's still out there.
My brain just warped. That's
he's
crazy.
still playing.
Bring the kid home.
Yeah, bring him home.
Bring him home.
Let's get another 5'9" corner in here. What could go wrong?
Yeah, actually, wait. How tall is Jeff Okudah? Is he 6'1"?
He's got to be. He's a
6'1".
little bit bigger for sure.
6'1". Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
200 some.
We finally get a guy over 6 feet. Finally,
In the building,
but finally with those.
Oh, he was signed back with Atlanta. Okay.
Additional 2 inches, they'll be able to stop the 6'5". They'll be able to stop Christian Watson. Finally,
they'll be able to contest the jump ball.
Finally, they'll. Yeah. Luckily, Christian Watson has done more stopping himself against the Vikings, so that's fine.
You know who?
No, Kamu Grugier-Hill can't wrestle the ball away from him now. That's Eric Wilson's job.
I am on Eric Wilson. One of my favorite dudes. In 2020, this is his 2020 stat line with Mike Zimmer. 3 picks, 8 passes defensed, a forced fumble, 2 fumble recoveries, 3 sacks, 100+ tackles, all over the place.
Wow, 3
Loved
picks.
him then.
Wow,
I'm sure in the last 5 years he hasn't declined. He got to be the same guy.
He got paid after that, right? Like, where did he?
He was
paid.
One year he was a very good special teamer, and then he wasn't a very good special teamer after that. And then he was a pure coverage linebacker, and then they asked him to play every down, and that was a bad idea, and he wasn't good at that. I don't know, man. There's probably a reason he's been bouncing around. Again, I think that he's probably better than most bottom of the roster guys that you could add, and so certainly he's a value add to a 90-man. But I'm glad that they have Blake Cashman. And
I don't think he bounced around. He was with the Packers for 3
did.
years.
Packers,
not
He
really
it was a couple years between like 2021 and then before he signed with the Packers, he hit the Saints and Panthers. Like he was
he was at the Eagles, Texans, Saints, then the Packers. So he bounced around.
They didn't know how to use him. He signed Inman. He signed
but neither did the Vikings, I guess. What are you talking about?
$2.75 million contract in 21 when he was a free agent.
Yeah. I will say in Green Bay, when he was starting like the last couple of years, I always looked at him as like a huge mark. Like, this is a guy that can absolutely be a victim that running backs can just victimize. I don't want this guy starting at all. Please don't tell me that they're like going to a 4-3 now. But as a backup, sure.
Yeah, he started for 1 year in Green Bay, and that was the year they decided to no longer have him. I don't know. That tells me something, right?
Yeah, due to injury, he played a lot, and he was like absolutely like they ran at him constantly because they knew that running backs could like press him and like cut back. And
yeah, he's officially 230 pounds. I think he's lighter. I think he's like 220.
Well, this is the most depressing conversation of all time. I was ready to celebrate.
It's not a big deal. He's back up.
And now you've
compared to like
multiple Vikings quarterbacks have like died. This is clearly not the most depressing conversation that you've had on the show.
Wait, let me cheer you up, Sam. He's a backup. It's fine. This is a Kamu replacement. Yeah. I think it's like you give a 1-year deal for a new one of these guys every year. It's like totally normal thing to do.
I think he's a value add to a 90-man. I think he's probably better than Troy Dye, so that like there you go.
Yeah, he's gonna make the team.
Probably. I wouldn't guarantee that he would, but yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Justin School. Anybody like Justin School? Swing tackle. It's not my guy Cornelius Lucas. I think School is going to cost you about $1.3 million. Plays right and left tackle. Kind of a small sample. Probably an upgrade on Quessenberry, but not significant.
At least you get younger, right?
34-year-old Quessenberry, who, like, when it looked like he was going to have to start for multiple games, they immediately traded for Cam Robinson. Yeah, I think Justin School's probably a serious backup answer, and maybe we'll have to start a couple games. And it had to be a guy that you're like comfortable with doing that. I think I can be tucked into that. That's fine.
Yeah, I can get.
He's been reasonably good in pass protection when
he's been a good backup.
Playing.
He's not like a starter, right? But like
better than most backups, which is a really great place.
Rashad Hill.
It's tough to find that guy. Yeah, there you go, Rashad Hill. Actually, I kind of like him more than Rashad Hill, but like, yeah, whatever.
Like that tier of guy, which is perfect.
Yeah.
On a veteran minimum, yep, great. Check it off the grocery
upgrade
list.
from Quessenberry, and why this was so important.
Cameron Rolfe
obviously.
in the chat just said "School Vikes." Let's go.
School Vikes.
Oh, that's going to be a thing for sure.
Yeah.
But big picture, when you think about Darrisaw, the timetable when he's going to get back out there, they ain't going to rush Christian Darrisaw. just like Hawkinson last year. Any big name injuries we've seen, Darrisaw will not suit up until he's legit 100% ready to roll. So here's your backup plan now at left tackle, little insurance policy for those few games, however many he misses, if that's how it unfolds. And plus, you need somebody, a warm body back here to soak up all these reps during training camp, OTAs, preseasons, all this time while Darrisaw's out as well. So, and plus, I like the fact that he can get most of those reps. You can throw in somebody like Walter Rouse to get some first team reps once in a while too, just to see how he's developing as well. But yeah, I feel good about it. I like it.
Let's get Luke Inman to run these practices, man.
Why not? Come
on. I sent you guys the link to the remaining Vikings FAs. I'll be honest with you. There's a chance. Yep. Thanks for reading the notes. There's a chance that none of them are back. Like, I think they legitimately all could walk. Here's the 13.
I would imagine so, yeah.
Cam Robinson, clearly no. Stephon Gilmore, unlikely. Shaq Griffin, unlikely. Reisner, no. Powell, no. Quessenberry, no. Feeney, no. Kamu, no. Fabian, no. Cam, no. Brett Rippon, no, probably not. So I think I leave the door open for Bullard and Jihad Ward. Those are about the only two.
Do not believe Brett Rippon is a free agent, but this is Spot Track, so I don't expect him to be right.
Can't trust him. But
wow.
More straight.
You know how sometimes over the caps will have you'll look up the contract details and something will immediately not make sense. They did that with Harrison Smith. For the first couple hours that it was up, Harrison Smith's contract was missing a bunch of guarantees. They do that on purpose because they know that Spot Track is scraping their stuff and they're pranking them. That is a thing that that over the cap has openly been we do that.
Yeah. So
which is fantastic. Cap website drama.
Yeah, it's like the paper towns concept. I don't know if you've ever heard of this, but map makers will invent towns to see if other map makers are copying their maps. And that happens. And then at one point, that actually resulted in a real town being founded to fulfill the prophecy of a paper town that had been in 4 different maps. So yeah, no, they'll do that to each other. I know at least one person who does. All right, we lost Luke Inman. I know at least one person who also does this with workout data, where they'll put in not a mistake, but instead of a hyphen, they'll put in an M dash or something like that for the broad jump score, or instead of a quotation mark, it's 2 apostrophes or something, and they'll be able to catch someone scraping their data. It's crazy what internal niche drama exists, and I get to experience all of it because of the Draft Network piece I wrote, and now everyone wants to feed me the craziest, insane niche drama I've ever heard of, which rules. Actually, keep doing it.
Niche T, great TikTok account.
Yeah, actually, genuinely.
Yeah, phenomenal stuff.
Yeah.
Do you guys remember a long time ago when I asked which free agent you thought they might re-sign before we got off into maps?
I think I'm with you, Sam. I think none of these guys are back.
What's wrong with maps? I love maps.
Your beloved Bullard could be gone. Are you okay with that?
Yeah, Javon Hargrave and Jonathan Allen came in and
I didn't anticipate them signing 2 high-end defensive linemen.
Yeah,
so
that's a replacement. Things. That's totally fine with me. I mean, I like him. I'm rooting for him, but we got other guys I'm excited about. I'm good.
Taki, Jalen, LDR, backups.
That room is so finished. You add a rookie to it, and now you have to cut one of Levi Drake Rodriguez, Taki Taimani, or Jalen Redmond. That is a nice place to be.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Jihad Ward, I've been fond of him. I thought that he was good last year, pure pass rushing role. And again, they haven't added any depth there. I think that door's open, but it could easily be somebody else. It doesn't need to be Jihad Ward. I think a body's still going to come in. I was looking at roster size. They're committed to 63 dudes right now at most. How many FAs are they probably going to sign henceforth? 4? I mean, a backup, tight end, receiver, safety, edge rusher.
It wouldn't shock me if at a lot of these positions it's only going to be UDFAs, right? It wouldn't shock me if at DL it was only UDFAs, which I wouldn't love.
And that's what I'm saying.
Guy, There's a lot of UDFA potential for a lot of these positions. At corner, they should add some guys, like either a high-end draft pick or a vet or both. But like defensive line, like certainly it wouldn't shock me if they're like, yeah, it's all practice squatters plus a bunch of undrafted free agents that we signed because we're like goated at signing undrafted free agents for some reason.
They're headed toward
there's
about
still
a
some randos.
15-man class.
Like some Rondale Moore types, I think, left to do this. If they sign Okuda, Rondale Moore's now visiting with the Bears. I kind of feel like that they'd said no to that. But something like that, right? Bring in your Brandon Powell replacement. So I feel like there's still a handful of like depth guys, but in terms of like serious free agents that like we can use as like headlines on a podcast and get clicks for, I feel like there's like maybe one, maybe a quarterback. That's about it.
Well, if they, I mean, you can maneuver some of these clickbait, right? Like if they sign another,
I mean, I've made more with less, but you know,
right. But if they sign like a spring league all-star, you just say Vikings sign all-star, and then that's your podcast title.
Yeah, that's I've made it work in a lot of worse times in mid-July when nothing's happening. Okay, don't worry about me, but. But not like guys that like right now, it's really easy to put Aaron Rodgers in a title or to put Jordan Mason in a title. Like people are into that, you know. I don't know if you're gonna get a whole bunch off from like a practice squad futures contract signing.
Someone else's Taki Taimani,
yeah.
Rondale Moore, by the way, quick thoughts on that. Coming off a serious leg or knee injury, did we get clarification on what the nature of that was that happened in training camp last year? Speaking of clickbaity titles, they're all like gruesome injury, terrible injury. I haven't actually seen the diagnosis on what it was. Would have to dig in. But again, Kwesi loves to get the post injury year for these guys, probably coming pretty cheaply. Rondale Moore, like him as a gadget.
Yeah,
I would,
sure.
I like what he can do for sure if he's okay. But sounds like they like part of that is this is what they said on Access Vikings. Part of that is bringing him in to see how healthy he is. So if they did let him go to Chicago, they may not have been satisfied with that answer.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I don't think he's immediately an upgrade at wide receiver 3 by a tremendous margin, maybe slightly over Naylor, but off an injury, I'm not as all in on Rondale Moore as I am on Jeffrey Okuda for whatever reason in terms of reclamation. I want to give Inman a chance to come back and say goodbye, but I don't know if that's going to happen.
I get it. There's something intoxicating about the guy that we once viewed as this like we viewed Jeff Okuda as good of a prospect as like Sauce Gardner. Like there's something to that that's like, well, maybe there's just something hidden within there. And I don't know. I didn't follow the Lions of that era well enough to know exactly why that didn't work out. I know injuries was a huge part of it, but nothing really more than that. But I think he will never be more. Until proven otherwise, he'll never be more than a body in the room. And they need people with a mortal coil, so he fits that.
Like the concern is that when he signs somewhere, the tweet is going to be former first round pick blank signs with. And that's a rough place to be, bud.
Which we already clicked that off of bingo, so we don't even get the square for that.
Yeah.
Braun, you got the Vikings cutting a veteran. Are you at a bingo or one away?
Oh, did they? Who cut?
I thought they cut Bradbury. Is that not official?
Not yet. They're trying to trade him. But I feel good there. I need a blocking tight end to unlock receiving potential, and then I'll be that would be a bingo. I also need Kirk Cousins to put his foot in his mouth. That would also. I got 4 right now.
I'm blocked out of 2 because of the tampering and the Johnny Munt. But if I just get an emotional post from the Vikings, I'm good. I get the bingo. But we still don't have that, right? So
an emotional post about someone leaving, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I could see them doing it for Bradbury. He's been the center for 7 years. I could see that happening. Yeah. So we're waiting with bated breath to see what happens there. And I do think we get an answer sometime this week.
I would need it to be a trade then, right? Because if they cut him, that comes from an order perspective prior to the post about him, which means that you would get the bingo before I would. So I would need them to trade him. Yeah.
The fact that they didn't
Really
do one for Cam Bynum, who had a much more
We're doing like in the hunt
Yeah.
type math.
we need Steve Kornacki.
Kornacki.
Yeah, right, yeah. Now, if it goes into overtime and they tie,
They didn't have a farewell post for Cam Bynum, who had a much stronger relationship with this fan
I
base.
was shocked that they didn't have a farewell post for
Yeah,
Biden.
doesn't bode
Upset.
well.
Yeah. And then, also, I'm locked out of hold a press conference within 72 hours of FA start, right? So I don't get that one either.
Yeah,
there was literally an email too where it came from the Vikings, and I thought, oh, this is it. They're announcing the press conferences, and they said we will not be holding any press conferences at this time because of the various players and like all their schedules to align. So they're like, sorry, we're going to delay this until the artist.
And the Vikings have not lost an FA that they were in the mix for, correct? So we don't.
Well, so Javon Holland is interesting.
Oh wait, no, they've lost a ton of those. Yeah.
Okay, so I get that one.
Cooper Kupp.
Oh yeah. There we go.
Yeah.
So I get that. So and we don't have an FA that's signed with an NFC North rival.
That would be
no.
Yeah. All right.
There's
So
only
I
been
need
one-
either that or the emotional post, and then I'll have a bingo.
Okay.
Yeah. It will not help
Come
me at all
on,
to
Cam
a bingo.
Robinson. Let's go. Sign
but
with
I
the
do-
Bears.
I do just want to bring up, so I have Florio proven dreadfully wrong, and I don't know if this is dreadfully wrong or just embarrassing, but it is very funny that he posted a whole article whining about not being able to get Sam Darnold's contract details, like a whole piece about Sam Darnold's contract details being a big mystery. 20 minutes later, they are reported by someone else.
That's so that does not count for the thing, but that is embarrassing. That's
Okay.
hilarious. Yeah, well, because he's right that
Like,
he
you
wasn't
could be
able
like,
to get it,
his
right?
point was that you can't get the details, and you clearly can get the details. Is that right? But I'm probably stretching it. I mostly just want to bring it up to make fun of him.
Yeah, no, and he deserves to be made fun of. It's just the category of thing that you're making fun of him for is slightly different than what we had anticipated when we constructed that bingo square.
It was worth a
but
shot.
Yeah, embarrassing.
Good chance to dunk on him, though, which is always fun. We will be back on Thursday. Carol Evan Crew on Wednesday's Minnesota Football Party. Ron Johnson tomorrow. He'll be talking about the T. Higgins and Jamar Chase contracts and stacking it up with Justin Jefferson. That's tomorrow on the Ron Johnson Show. Luke Inman left us and did not return. We wish him well. Arif Hasan.
Whoever knows where he is.
Yeah, well, I don't know. He could be in Thailand again. I don't know.
Yeah.
Luke Braun, Locked On Vikings. And I'm Sam Ekstrom. Thanks for watching. Thank you for the commenters. You keep it lively. And thanks for subscribing at Locked On Sports Minnesota. We will talk to you next time. This is the Minnesota Football Party.